What's romanticized that shouldn't be romanticized? Toxic romantic relationships. And the messy never stays confined to the relationship. Friends, family, and sometimes innocent bystanders can all wind up splattered in it. Chasing after someone who has told you they're not interested. Overworking. Grind culture. The grind. I'm sure it can be romanticized when you're working to invest, or saving up for something. I'm trying to buy groceries and make rent. I'm so tired. I'm tired of acting like it's a noble pursuit or something that I have to work so many hours just to live. Whatever the fuck happened in The Notebook? Serial killers. For reference, Ted Bundy. All of Netflix serial killer docs. Never giving up. Don't get me wrong, I am not saying people shouldn't make efforts to get what they want, but when every event, every sign shows you that pursuing a particular goal leads you nowhere, giving up isn't a failure, it's just choosing another direction. Not to mention that people who apply the never give up mindset to their love life, that's how people become stalkers or simps. Mobsters. That possessive, obsessive, jealous monster of a romantic interest. In no world is that a healthy relationship, and yet is everywhere. A mental health diagnosis for anytime someone feels a little unhappy, slighted, or uncomfortable. Mental illness is a nightmare for those living it. Thug life. Rural living. Everyone thinks owning a homestead or having a farm is so comfortable and cozy, but it's because social media romanticizes the hell out of it. It is a lot of work, and although the lifestyle is rewarding and I would never trade it for anything, it does not come as easily as social media influencers would have you to believe. Medieval time period. Castles were dirty, smelly places with little to no privacy. Autism. It's such a weird thing to fetishize. Wars, crimes, fame. Van life. Chronic illness and mental illness. I'm not sick and sexy. Why the F does society think it's hot or cute to be sick, like it's a good thing? I'd do anything to not deal with this SHT. It isn't cute. It isn't fun. It isn't romantic in any way. In fact, it's the polar opposite in my case. And this trend has made people not believe I'm dealing with crap because they think I'm doing it for attention or clout or popularity. I used to get a lot more upset about that, but I finally realized I'm still going through the same crap, regardless of whether they think it's fake. Mental illnesses. Intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts aren't getting extra Oreos on your ice cream. Intrusive thoughts are the ones that tell you to drive into an oncoming semi. I'm so fucking sick and tired of hearing people's fake-ass mental illness shit. Especially ADHD ones. They make us look like selfish, entitled jerks, and I'm over it. The mafia. They killed a good friend of my uncle's because he was standing up for what was right. It devastated my uncle because he knew there was nothing he could do about it. The two crooked cops that did the hit were eventually arrested and died in jail, but that didn't do the victim's family any good. When I visit Italy, the culture there is much different than in the US. They are disgusted with organized crime and don't glorify it at all. Mental health issues. Toxic on-off relationships. Codependent intimate relationships. Being unable to function or face daily life without your partner is not sweet or romantic, it's sad and you need help. Infidelity. The thrill and excitement of secrecy and forbidden love. Not taking no for an answer. Possessiveness. 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight, some of the biggest books and movie franchises of this generation, both romanticize this to the extreme. It's not sexy when your partner doesn't let you have male friends, barges into a room and interrupts whatever you are doing to demand your sole attention, or forces you to commit to something before you're ready. Not cute. Huge red flags in real life. Stop making little girls and young women think this is romantic. Love bombing, or stalking your interest. Drinking alcohol after a stressful day at work. Crappy redemption arcs featuring a troubled man who only did such terrible things because of his own trauma. He just needs to be saved by the right person who's really just misunderstood. Being obsessed with someone. Motherhood. I think there are far too many people who should never be allowed to bring children into this world, and I also think that there is a devastatingly unfair division of labor when it comes to a mother's role vs a father's role in parenthood that saddens me. Eating disorders. As someone recovering from anorexia, it's not fun, it's not glamorous, it's not edgy and cool. It's agony and disgust and failure and death. Big-ass weddings. Hustle culture. Killing yourself with stress and constantly going is a great way to die prematurely. Stress kills, for real. Being in a toxic relationship. Just because you keep running back to each other and love each other doesn't mean you aren't toxic for each other. Jealousy. Serial killers. The grind hustle culture. I am all for making money, but it gets to a point of diminishing returns where you cannot enjoy the rest of your life. It goes quick, find balance and happiness. Cigarettes. Abusive relationships. Pregnancy and childbirth. They are long and painful and leave lasting damage in a significant amount of women, whether it be physical or mental. They might be natural, but they are very dangerous. Violent sex. Romance. If you can live a fulfilling life on your own, that's great, and shouldn't make you a social outcast. The Confederate States of America. Serial killers. For the love of God, stop making shows about them. Just stop. If it was your family member that was killed savagely, you wouldn't want people eating popcorn to it, would you? You know that trope where men kiss women when they're ranting? That. Nothing says I'm not listening to a word you're saying than just randomly kissing them. Suicide. The American dream: buying new, everything on credit, living way outside of your means, brand worshipping, material nonsense, working harder to spend more. It's hopelessly outdated and, according to the mental health collapse in the States, isn't working out all that well. Hyper-individualism. Humans are naturally meant to be social animals who help each other and care about each other. Pregnancy, childbirth, and raising children. The number of times I've heard a pregnant postpartum person say something along the lines of, "No one ever told me about insert horrible side effect complication that's actually way more common than most people realize. I wish someone had told me that would happen beforehand." As for raising children, I think anyone who has kids, is around kids frequently, or works with them will find that one self-explanatory. The good old days, when neighborhood kids played outside unsupervised until the streetlights came on. Several of my relatives who grew up in the 50s, 60s were sexually abused by neighbors and threatened into keeping it secret. Drinking. Having an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, binge drinking. Choking during sex. It's incredibly dangerous and results in multiple deaths every year because people do not know the difference between choking play and actually killing someone. Drugs in songs. The LGBTQ community. I don't understand why especially a lot of straight people make it seem so interesting and cool. It's just same sex bro, nothing is different except for the sex. I'm gay, don't be thinking I'm homophobic, lol. Violence. Damn thieves stealing your packages or mail, and calling them porch pirates. Call them what they are: filthy, stinking, weak as thieves. ASD kids as indigo children. My son has Asperger's. He's not specially gifted or more in touch with the divine. He's a human being with a different brain. Sometimes he's a huge pain in the ass. He's not special. He's just a person. And I love him for that. City life. Poverty. A bunch of stupid rich Western travelers visited Calcutta to gawk at poor people because they saw Slumdog Millionaire. Intimacy and communication skills as they are portrayed in most movies. Leaving your lucrative big city job and besuited fiancé to marry the sensitive, besweeted baker from your quiet hometown. Shitty men. How much you sacrifice for the grind. Hookup culture. It's not making people happier overall. It's just creating a bunch of jaded and bitter 30-something-year-olds who now want to find some poor person to settle down into a toxic-ass relationship with because they're finally fed up after being treated like a dildo or a fleshlight for the past 10 years. Then they blame the opposite sex as a whole for all their issues, when it's really just their own poor decision-making that's to blame. Working more than 40 hours a week. Pledging your virginity to your father. Porn. Many things. Stockholm Syndrome, abuse, complete dominance of one person in a relationship, over-possessiveness. Being possessive is okay, but there is also a limit to it. Cheating, or leaving your partner family for someone else. The self-made man story. No one was self-made, even the hardest workers received help and got lucky breaks. This is a tale that teaches us to look down on anyone who hasn't succeeded and attribute success purely to one's own efforts, which is total crap and leads to aggrandizing the people born in third base. Mental illness. I know other people have said this, but seriously, it's not a quirky personality trait. People fake it because they want to feel validated, because everybody struggles in life and it's nice to feel like other people recognize that you are struggling with something more material like an illness. But you're just spreading around misinformation. Self-harm. It's an awful addiction that people don't want to understand. Diamonds. They are little rocks with a high refractive index, dug up by miners who work in appalling conditions for meager pay, then sold at colossal markup by international cartels. A diamond ring is a ghastly choice of token with which to cement a relationship. All those writers who were heavily drinking when they wrote novels certainly romanticized booze. Alcoholism. Self-diagnosing pretty much anything. 1950s America. It was only a good time if you were a cis, straight, middle to upper class, white, man. Toxicity in relationships. The I cannot live without so and so trope. It's ridiculous and pathetic. Self-proclaimed alpha males. People thinking it's cool and edgy to say variations of whatever. I don't want to live long anyway. I'm not scared of dying. I don't even want to see 30. You're only fooling yourself. Guaranteed the instant they're actually confronted with their mortality via illness or accident is the moment they're in sheer and utter panic, begging and bargaining to stay. Marrying solely for love and not acknowledging that a real partnership requires practicality as well as romance to be viable. A woman slapping her man. It is a huge comedy trope and everyone thinks it's funny when in fact it is just another form of domestic violence. Being manic. Natural childbirth. Having an affair because you're unhappy in your marriage or they're not your soul mate. The underdog, the boss bitch, and the simp man. IDK if it's romanticized but baby trapping. The Joker and Harley's relationship. Hooking up with random strangers. The more I scroll, the more it strays from the actual question.